Welcome to a Clown World Current Thing Mashup. I'm joined today by Nick Dixon. Nick, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, good to be here, Leo.
And we're going to be talking about the topical events of the week, including the Gaza war ending, the chant at Oxford University, which seems to be a hotbed for anti-Semitism at the moment. Some kid that goes to Oxford University was chanting, "Put the Zios in the ground," and seemed to be very energised by it, and is also apparently a student of German culture. I think particularly between 1930 and 1944. And there's also various other things happening. The Tommy trial, Peter Hitchens blaming the Manchester synagogue attack on reefer madness, and millionaires are leaving Britain, and Britain could be bankrupt. But yeah, let's kick off with the Gaza war ending and Trump. Trump didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't know how many conflicts he's got to end before he gets recognised for this. It seems to be blatant politicking. Even the woman who won the Nobel Peace Prize, Maria something or other, who's the Venezuelan opposition leader. Yeah, she commended Trump and said that he should have got it. You know what I mean?
That was hilarious. Yeah, it went to her, and then she said already, yeah, it should go to Trump. So it was very funny what she did. But she said because of the things he's done in Venezuela, not necessarily everything else he's done. But
Yeah.
yeah, the argument goes that they decide in January, so it's too soon for them to give it to Trump. Although someone pointed out, didn't that mean they gave it to Obama like instantly when he got in? So I'm not sure on that. But they didn't give it to Trump because they decide in January. Perhaps he hadn't done enough peace by then. And so the question is, will he get it next? If he doesn't get it next time, that's really ridiculous because having done this and they vote in January, that would just be completely absurd. And what they did do was give him the time cover, which in itself is quite surprising. It said his triumph, but what was strange, some people thought, was that they did a picture from up his nose. It looked like he had no hair. You can
Yeah.
see kind of like his neck didn't look great. And Trump posted about it. Did you see his post?
No, what did he say?
Sorry, I got a bit of a cold. He actually said that they'd sort of screwed him over on the cover. He said, "Time magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time. They disappeared my hair and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. Really weird. I never like taking pictures from underneath angles. This is a super bad picture and deserves to be called out. What are they doing and why?"
That's interesting because it is. I mean, it's sort of kind of starting to be obvious. Well, it's been obvious for a while that all our institutions, the United Nations, the Nobel Institute, they're all blob aligned. They're all run by the blobocracy. So they'll never let Donald Trump get something that he rightfully should, because it's not just peace in Gaza. There was the conflict Azerbaijan and Armenia. There's potential conflict in Serbia nipped in the bud. There's India, Pakistan, and also Ukraine. Looks like we're going to get peace in Ukraine after Joe Biden like teased that war out when it could have been ended, whereas Trump is much more, he built a golden bridge for Putin to walk away over. Putin didn't walk away over it, so now Trump's like, well, you know what, Ukraine's getting tomahawks. So he's doing the sort of concrete steps and taking some of the risks that I think Joe Biden was afraid to take. It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's interesting that the Venezuelan opposition leader congratulated Trump and said that he should have won, because Trump's actually been going into Venezuela and attacking the drug smuggling gangs, because Venezuela is a kind of communist narco state funded by cocaine and fentanyl or whatever else they've got.
It also has downsides.
Yeah, yeah. And Trump's like, Trump sent troops to like blow up these Venezuelan drug runners in their speedboats. I mean, that's what we're told. From the footage, it looks a bit grainy. It could just be some Venezuelan guys going fishing, but either way, he's doing something there, and he's sort of talking about overthrowing the Venezuelan leader. Is it Maduro? So then this opposition leader would be placed in there. So her congratulating Trump might just be like, her being like, yes, Mr. Trump, why don't you take out this guy and make me the king?
Yeah, interesting. Well, mainstream media were trying to use him blowing up those boats or whatever as one reason he may not have got the peace prize. The boats thing and the Iran action that they did, taking out the nuclear sites, or whatever.
Mm.
But by the way, it's funny those 8 wars he claims to have ended. By the way, I said to you, Hillary Clinton ended 8 wars, and I thought That's gonna have to security after that joke. I better not say that in public. Um, we don't know what they did. But he claims to have ended 8 wars. The question is, did he really end 8 wars? So I was looking at them. I don't know if you can collect them all. You mentioned some of them there. The Israel Hamas, obviously. Israel Iran, the 12-day war.
Yeah.
Egypt, Ethiopia. India, Pakistan. Serbia, Kosovo. Rwanda, Congo. Armenia, Azerbaijan. Cambodia, and Thailand. And some people are like debunking, going, well, some of these weren't wars. They were skirmishes, border skirmishes, and so on. But still, Trump's claiming them all as well. Do you see that clip with Starmer where he says, I'm averaging about a war a month that I'm ending. We're ending one per month. Nobody's never ended this many wars. So yeah, pretty impressive. Even if they're not war, I mean that's a bit pedantic, isn't it? Actually, some of those aren't actually wars. So yeah, but he's still ended conflict. You had the leader of Pakistan saying, "This man should get Nobel Peace Prize." Did you see that? It was so good. He repeatedly said it, and Trump just standing there and going, just like,
Yeah,
it's
I
funny.
don't think people downplay the sort of the risk level of having India and Pakistan going at each other because they're both nuclear powers. They're both nations not famed for their impulse control or their clear demarcation of territory. So I think to actually get some peace there, I know it's still a sort of conflict that's rumbling on, but I mean and Gaza, I mean, like to get that peace deal in Gaza, it's been like 2 years. That's
Yeah.
insane. To get the hostages released and to get some sort of, plan moving forward. And it's not just some sort of, let's all hold hands at the United Nations. It's like, no, we're going to build skyscrapers. We're going to bring economic opportunity. Because, Northern Ireland shows that it's the economic opportunity. It's just when people have got full bellies and nice cars, they're not thinking, oh, you know what I need to do? I need to go and blow some stuff up.
Yeah, good point. I mean, what do you think about that? Because I'm trying to work out how far Trump did sort of get the better of Netanyahu. Because if you listen to a lot of American commentary on the right, it's like, oh, Trump's owned by Netanyahu, and he's owned by Israel. And you could say they have let Israel do quite a lot. They prosecuted this war for a while. They got what they wanted out of Iran. You could say got US help there. But when it came down to it, it's everything I read is that Netanyahu's been sort of pushed into this by Trump. There's even a funny thing that Trump was sitting nearby Netanyahu when he called Qatar to apologize. So because they attacked that embassy or whatever in Qatar, and then Trump was like, "Right, you've crossed the line there." Because you imagine Trump just sitting nearby going, "Make the call," you know what I mean? He's having to make the call. Trump did apparently sort of push him into it, yeah, and a lot of it was to do with his negotiating with people like the Saudis and Qatar and people, and using all that pressure, and they pressured Hamas, and it seemed to be it was a kind of just Trump bullying everyone into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I've read between the lines. That's basically what they're saying. Because Netanyahu
Yeah.
didn't want to end it, but now he does seem to have accepted it. He did say in his speech, "Hopefully this will mean peace." Last 2 years have been a time of war. Hopefully, he did add a hopefully. Do you think it'll actually hold this? Because some people say that you never get peace for very long in that region.
Oh yeah, I mean, like we've had sort of all those deals before. Like remember Yasser Arafat at Camp David shaking hands with whoever it was. It might have been Bibi or whoever it was before that, Ariel Sharon or somebody. But yeah, like I mean, I don't think everybody's put their enmity to one side and is gonna hold hands. But I do think we never thought that about Northern Ireland. We never thought Northern Ireland could be resolved. And it was resolved. And the sort of economic growth was a big part of it, and the sort of mums coming out and being like, "Listen, this is all stupid." A rare example of
Iraq and Clinton.
yeah, rare example of the Longhouse actually doing some good. But the sort of politics around the war is interesting as well because Netanyahu the war is like really unpopular with the Israeli public, but Netanyahu's dependent on support from far right parties inside Israel. So they sort of, to maintain his coalition, they sort of pushed him to keep the war going. So yeah, that was just sort of,
Zelensky, if that's true.
what's that?
So, what very similar to Zelensky, if that's the case.
Is he being pushed? I think there's more support for Ukraine's war inside Ukraine.
I always
Maybe a
felt
bit.
that Zelensky was being. I always heard that nationalists were kind of making him kind of continue and things like that. But I don't know. You're
Yeah, I
getting
mean,
on that, not me.
there's that great story about him going down to disband the Azov battalion because they're all, far right and all the rest of it. You know, all the things that you actually need when you're fighting a war. So he went down to them and he was like, listen, we've got to disband the Azov battalion. And they were like, no, we're not going to do that. If you try, we'll kill you.
Yeah, you're a comedian. We're like hardened nutcases.
Yeah. Look at these tattoos. Do you think I got these tattoos from not killing people? Like,
Right.
yeah. And it's funny on CBC, the Canadian version of the BBC. They recently had a piece on Azov, or they've renamed the Azov battalion, but it's still the same guys. And they had a piece from a training camp there, and they forgot to cover up all the tattoos and blur them in the thing. So you got these guys walking around with like swastikas on their arms. Not that listen, I know the history of the swastika in Ukraine is very different from the history of the swastika in Germany. It's Ukraine suffered the Holodomor. It was Ukraine's big genocide was caused by the Soviets, and then the Nazis were seen as liberating the country. So it's got a totally different context.
Plus, a lot of them are just Buddhists.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they do have Jews. They've got a lot of Jews fighting for them. So it's different.
What did you do? The claim from the news agents, Emily Maitlis, that Blair was really the one behind it. So her rationale was, okay, Trump, used the raw power. Okay, did that. But Trump can't create a 20-point plan. This was her argument. Trump can't create a PowerPoint 20-point plan for peace. That's got Blair written all over it. So because it's bullet points, she thinks it must be Blair. Some people agreed that obviously Blair gets everywhere. You wouldn't rule Blair anything out when it comes to Blair. He seems to be behind everything. And Trump was working with him. But I'm not sure the argument that it was a 20-point plan means it's Blair is a strong. Why couldn't one of Trump's team do a 20-point plan? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like JD Vance can only go up to 8 bullet points. I mean, that's an absolute nonsense. I mean, Blair, I'm sure Blair is, very involved in the planning and everything. He's making sure he's sowing the seeds for the governance of Gaza that will mean that in 20 years' time it's an absolute hellhole. Like he did with Britain. You know what I mean? I'm sure he's putting devolution, faith schools, mass immigration, all the things that destroy a country. He's making sure they're all in there, making sure that all the charities become political lobbying groups, making sure that NGOs are unaccountable and have a huge political pressure, and they create this enormous blob, this cathedral.
The judges can just do what they want.
Yeah.
Exporting a philosophy that's failed here to the world.
But yeah, the thing is with Trump, and the thing that Trump, because everybody's like, well, Trump's a real estate guy from New York, so yeah, he's used to negotiating land deals with Jewish guys. So I think that's something that's helped Trump a lot.
That New York real estate kicking him. It was just a tough negotiation between a guy who owns a lot of real estate, Netanyahu. It's one big real estate deal, folks.
Or a guy who wants more real estate.
Right. Good point. Yeah, you can't have it. Yeah.
Although another aspect to, another thing pushing Netanyahu to sort of keep the war going is the fact that I think he's going to be liable for prosecution. A lot of people want to prosecute him for war crimes. I don't think he's liable for war crimes. I think if you're in a war, it's just what war is. So keeping the war going meant that he couldn't be prosecuted while the war was going. And if he could exit the war with some big victory, like releasing the hostages, then it gives him some sort of defense against prosecution. So maybe he was holding out for that as well.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I've tried to stay relatively neutral. It's very hard on this war to stay. I know I haven't loved what Israel's doing. Obviously, I was against October 7th. Some maniacs weren't. I think a lot of people sort of lost their humanity either way a little bit. And there are these people, I think you mentioned this at the start, it might have been before we were recording, there are these people who want it to continue. I mean, Zara Sultana posted, "We must sever all diplomatic ties with the genocidal apartheid state of Israel immediately. Expel the ambassador, close the embassy. As apartheid South Africa was isolated, so too must Israel be, a pariah state. We'll march until Palestine is free from the river to the sea." It's like you just don't want your grift to end. It does feel like, or not even that, but your identity. Some people, their whole identity seems wrapped up in this. You've just got this peace deal. hostages are back. Can we at least say, okay, that's a good thing, even if it doesn't last forever? She's like, no, no, we want more. We want these are our new demands. It just seems like this Palestine thing has become for so much of the left in Britain a kind of something they base all their politics around and their identity on. It doesn't. They're not going to let it go easily.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, a couple of things. There's a huge industry around the whole Palestine war. There's so much money flowing into these charities, and NGOs that have got so much power. And where's that money going? It's all they don't want. They don't want that money, that structure to end. And also, yeah, like you say, it's become the identity for people in the West, but it's also like a sort of a wedge issue. They're not really concerned about Palestine itself. It's a wedge issue to damage Western civilization, damage capitalism. The real enemy. They're not anti-war. They're pro-war, but on the other side, on the Palestinian side. Because they want to tear down all the things that they're taught about in university. We've got a generation of kids who've been properly indoctrinated into all this anti-white, anti-capitalist, real Marxist rhetoric, and this is their outlet for it.
Yeah, when you saw October 7th, then you saw people like that Rivka Brown saying it was a day of celebration, and when you saw other people saying, "What did you think decolonization meant?" That's when you go like, "Whoa, whoa!" Like, I'm just against all of it. I'm against October 7th. I'm against Israel killing kids and stuff. I'm just call me like a liberal or a soft, softer, bleeding heart liberal. I've just been against all of it. I think that's a reasonable position to be against all the horror that's been going on. But some people actually like one side of the horror. They either say flatten Gaza, we don't care, or they say October 7th was amazing. And I think both those positions are a bit sick, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing that concerns me is the fact that we brought this this sort of overseas conflict to our shores. We've got like hundreds of thousands of people marching in London over Gaza and marching. I mean, I'd be more comfortable if they were marching for Israel, because Israel's like a civilized country. It's a country that I know I could go to. Well, I'm going there soon. That I could go to and have a nice time and get on with people. And it's a country aligned with my values. And, for some reason we've imported swathes of the world who have completely different values to what I as a native Brit have. And they're being used by the left. These people are being brought in, are being used by the left as a sort of weapon against Western civilization, against the British nation state. And I don't like that. I don't like that. I think I'd feel happier if Britain was a more harmonious, homogenous country.
Yes, although, Leo, even though I agree with your point, it is going to be harder to take you seriously once you've gone and kissed the wall, because we're all going to know you're getting that sweet dollar. Actually, your trip cancelled now, because they need people like you for the war propaganda. If the war's over, maybe your trip's cancelled. Like, baby, no more trip. We're not giving you free money. We're going to get a free trip over there, and now they don't need you. It's like, oh, why do we need Leo kissing the wall? It's over.
Oh man, I'm going to kiss that wall with tongues. It's the greatest wall ever. Then when China pay me to go to China, I'll kiss their wall as well. The Great Wall, the greatest wall.
You'll kiss any wall for cash, basically.
I'll kiss any wall for cash. Yeah. I mean, if the Palestinians had any walls left, I'd be happy to kiss them too.
Your open cynicism does checkmate a lot of people, because a lot of people are like, oh, paid up by Israel, and your thing is like, yep. Yeah, I'm paid low as by Israel. So far, you're not. You're hoping. You're actively hoping to be.
Yeah. I'm prospecting for money from Israel. So I'm not getting the money yet. I mean, I'm getting taken out there. It's going to be very interesting. Going with a good crew of people.
Are you sure you want to do that? Because I said I'm not going. Now, I've never been asked, and no one asked me. So that settles a lot of things for me. I've alienated myself from so many things. It answers a lot of questions. I'm not even invited to Battle of Ideas anymore. I'm blackballed so many things. I've managed to alienate every different faction. I'm like Keir Starmer. I've alienated every different faction. Like, I just relentlessly, me because I relentlessly speak the truth. Starmer because he's a fuckwit. It's a different reason.
Although you are both still chasing the far right.
That's true. But I did say to you, it's a lot of nasty stuff's happening in Israel. Do you really want to be associated with it? And you were like, people are going to say stuff, and you're like, yeah, bring it on, because you just want a scrap anyway. So
man, I think
you'll be like, yeah, so what?
I think that there's a reckoning due that, like, man, Israel exists for a reason. Like, Jews were expelled, genocided from so many countries across the Middle East, across the Muslim world. I mean, all these kids marching in the Palestine rallies, and they're talking about colonialism. It's like, what do you think the colonizing force is in the Middle East? All those lands used to be Jewish or Christian or Zoroastrian or whatever, and now they're all Muslim. And it's not like they're Muslim and you're allowed, you've still got a few thousand churches or whatever. No, they're like Saudi Arabia is Muslim, 0 Christian churches. You know what I mean? It's like,
hasn't Israel also attacked churches and Palestinians, Christian Palestinians that they don't care about?
There's some people in Israel that have got negative attitudes to Christians. I know that's the bit that your Candace Owens people are going to focus on, but I don't think that's. I mean, I think as a Christian. Cultural Christian. Does that count? I go to a cultural church. As a cultural Christian, I feel, I haven't been there yet, but I think I'd feel more comfortable living and, being openly Christian, having a cross around my neck in Israel than in other countries. Although, I've spent a lot of time in Muslim countries. I haven't... actually, you know what? Like, in Morocco, I haven't been to Morocco that many times, like maybe 4 times. And once I've seen once I saw a woman getting beaten up in the middle of a market, like obviously by her husband or possibly her dad or brother or something. And it's mad. It's like, if that happened in Dumfries maybe not in London because it's also a Muslim country, but, if that happened somewhere where you sort of had the confidence to step in, I'd step in, and I'd be like, no, you got to use the back of your hand. No, I'd step in and be like, stop it. But in Morocco, man, I can't be the white guy stepping in and being like, stop beating your wife. Like,
it'd be like Legends of You, like this 7-foot giant white guy that changed Moroccan culture.
Yeah, and then got like killed and hung from a lamppost. And also in Morocco, I saw a woman getting chased by these like teenage kids, maybe like 12, 14 years old, and they were like trying to grab her. She was wearing like a Hillary Clinton style trouser suit, and I suppose you're supposed to wear a burqa or whatever. And they were like trying to grab her ass, and she was like like running and shrieking and stuff. And man, I don't know. I just feel like Israel is probably going to be a nicer place to
probably
go.
On the whole, though you do see those videos of like Orthodox Jews like spitting on Christians and stuff. I mean, that's the kind of thing pops up in my timeline. Might not be in yours, but I haven't been out there, Leo. You have to tell me what it's like. Did we mention Starmer? We mentioned it very briefly. Like, as we record, I've got 12,000 likes for a tweet that's just me saying, I see you went with the photo and not the video, which shouldn't be a great tweet, but it's Starmer shaking hands with Trump, because the actual video was so embarrassing. He walked up to the mic, then Trump went, hey, Trump said a couple of things, then just turned his back on him completely.
Yeah.
Knocked him out. And Starmer just wandered back to the back of the room.
United Kingdom. Where's United Kingdom? Where's our friend? Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
That's very nice of you here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice, and I think it's fantastic. And we have so many others, and just so many others.
It was just like, it was so symbolic as well of his relationship to all of this. He's been completely irrelevant. He's just generally irrelevant, and he'll shuffle off out of British politics soon enough, and no one will remember it would just be this awkward weirdo.
Yeah, I mean, it was excruciatingly awkward, but I mean, I sort of feel for Starmer because, we've all been there where you think your raffle ticket's been read out, and you go up and like everybody's looking at you and you make a tit of yourself. Yeah. And, Starmer isn't famed for his sort of abilities in social situations, for his Tony Blair style, glad handing and, being a social gadfly. But this really, really was like, although he got a great picture out of it. I mean, if you just saw the picture, you would think, wow, look at this. Look at Starmer shaking hands with Trump at center stage. All the world leaders are around. And it's like, no, actually, he was absolutely cucked into submission by...
Cold-folded, literally. And it's funny that Bridget Phillipson also claimed to have something to do with it. Remember, she sort of claimed credit for this. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? Anything. We just didn't do anything in this. It was Trump, it was the Saudis, it was Qatar, it was Netanyahu, obviously. Yeah, it was Hamas, obviously, the people involved. But Macron apparently did some stuff, but we seemingly just did nothing.
And there's that weird handshake with Trump between Macron and Trump, where Trump was sort of like, and it's weird. Trump's like nearly 80, and he's just like dominating Macron. Macron's what, 18 years old. He's got this fit, lithe young Frenchman's body. Just eats olive oil and red wine, and Trump's like just gripping it like Sylvester Stallone and over the top, and manhandles his hand into submission. And they had a lip reader for the Daily Mail who said that they had a proper sort of Sopranos-style conversation about Trump was like, "Now I know why you want to hurt me," and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, it was great. It was really like a sort of Mexican soap opera. That's one of the great things about Trump is he takes the conversations that would have been backroom conversations and puts them center stage. Like when Zelensky went to the Oval Office and you know what, you should be grateful. You should say thank you. All that stuff. It was brilliant.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Well, that was awful, but it was funny. But yeah, the Macron thing, he always does that, the aggressive handshake, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Saying he took it to a new level and he whispered in his ear, "Now I know why you're against him." Imagine that. That's got to be a weird experience. You're getting pulled off practically in the air by Trump, most powerful person in the world, and he just whispers, "It's over for you, Macron." I know about your wife. You've got Candace Owens working full time on that one.
Candace showed me the testicles.
That's mad. We can't talk about that. Well, actually, we can talk about it. It's your podcast. You're not allowed to talk about speaking news. But Candace is... I like Candace, but she's gone absolutely back on that one. But that's
the thing is with Candace Owens, like, if she's wrong about Brigitte Macron being a bloke, and I think she's probably right. Hey, I might be wrong. Maybe we're about to see the most incredible revelation in the world. This is like, red rum being discovered in Findus lasagna or something. This is going to be a huge revelation. We're going to find out who shot JR. But man, if she's wrong about Brigitte Macron having a willy, then she's pretty much destroyed her credibility on the most clowny issue in the world. And then, once somebody's been wrong about something like that, you can't really trust them on anything.
Yeah, I mean, the latest story, 18th of September, was that I saw that was Macron and his wife Brigitte planning to present photographic and scientific evidence to a US court to prove Mrs. Macron is a woman. What are the factors? What's the science? It's going to be, that's just the weirdest case, isn't it?
Do you think they've got DNA evidence or something that they can test?
Well, I mean, they say photographic evidence. It can't be that hard to do a photo, can it, to prove you're a woman?
Yeah, yeah. Especially in France.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I mean, that is a strange one. That is a strange one from Candace. Let's see what happens. I mean, she's very confident. She's very confident that she knows about Charlie Kirk's killer, isn't she?
Yeah, which she says is Israel, which, but then everybody always says that everything is Israel. You know what I mean? And,
yeah. My barber the other day, I said, well, I think it's the left-wing nutter guy. They said, he went, no.
yeah.
Loads of people think that. You can find out when you're there. Ask around.
Yeah, maybe I'll get Candace Owens one of Occam's razors for Christmas. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about this guy who's chanting, Oxford University student who was chanting, and it's so cringe. It's so cringe. So he's standing there and he's at the protest. And he says, here's a chant that we've been workshopping in Oxford. Gaza. And then he starts chanting, Gaza, Gaza, make us proud. Put the Zios in the ground.
Upright, a steadfast and a noble resistance in Palestine and in Gaza to look to be inspired by. And I don't want to yap for too long, but a chant that we've been workshopping in Oxford that maybe you guys want to join in. It goes, Gaza, Gaza, make us proud, put the Zios in the ground. Gaza, Gaza, make us proud, put the Zios in the ground. Gaza, Gaza, make us proud, put the Zios in the ground. Gaza, Gaza, make us proud, put the Zios in the ground. Gaza, Gaza, make us proud, put the Zios in the ground. Thank you.
And he's so into it, and it's so like cringy. I was convinced it was a comedian doing a bit and not a genuine actual protester. And then it turns out that he's this guy. He's called Samuel. He's from Balliol College at Oxford University, and he's listed as a German tutor. And he says like something about, I don't know if he is Bavarian or if he's a fan of Bavaria, and he says he's got a deep interest in German culture. And it's like yeah, you don't say you got a deep interest in German culture. I think I know specifically which bit and which time period of German culture you have a real interest in. And it's sort of, I don't know, for me, like, there's no way real life is that funny. He's got to be a comedian doing a bit. Or it's showing that, you know, if there are any, you know, if there are a few neo-Nazis, like actual Nazis out there, they are in the Palestinian protest movement.
Yeah, can I just say you went quieter on the second call, by the way. You suddenly dipped, went a lot quieter. Is
Oh, really?
right on your settings? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
let me
It's
just check.
not terrible, but it just suddenly went. I just wanted to flag it in case it ruined this whole second call.
Select the microphone. No, it should all be. It's all looking fine here.
Well, then you'll have to cut that bit. Let me get ready to then answer. Okay, I'll answer it as if you just said it. Yeah, I saw that. But was that real? Because he was saying that he had an interest in Wagner. I was like, it's someone just photoshopped this together. His family was from Bavaria, as you say, and he's like, oh, here are my interests, you know, German literature and so on, Wagner. And I'm like, but it was just, I was like, this is easily mocked up on the internet. So I didn't totally believe it. But he was the ultimate nerd, that guy. He almost made me want to be a Zionist just because he was so annoying and pathetic. You know what I mean? I wouldn't call myself a Zionist by any means, but he was like, put the nose in the ground. And is anything going to happen to him? Because this whole incitement thing seems to be very kind of hit and miss, doesn't it? Based on the whole two-tier system. You can be a TikTok woman and say, kill them all.
Yeah.
If you're on the wrong side, you can say almost anything and get a visit from the police.
Yeah, like Ricky Jones being like, we need to, like, literally saying to a hyped up crowd, we need to slash their throats, and gets nothing. You know what I mean?
At least that was a jury, whereas these Kent police were like, I think was it Kent police? That woman, the TikTok woman, they're like, no, we don't even have to investigate, or we're not taking it any further. And then this guy, like, it seems like fairly clear.
Met police are investigating, but I mean, when they say investigating, they could just come back and be like, oh, listen, we found out he's left wing, so yeah, we don't do anything with left wing people because of our two-tier system, which I think is the statement they'll put out.
If you were a secret Nazi, though, it would be a great way to get all this off your chest in a safe space, wouldn't it? Because if you just come out and say all your Nazi stuff at a Nazi rally, it's like far right. You're in massive trouble. I don't know what Starmer would actually do with the actual far right. It might be bamboozled, but imagine you did that. But if you just show up at a Palestine thing, you can say put the Zayos in the ground. I mean, it's genius. If you are a German bloke with blonde hair who's into Wagner, that is a great worker. I still don't totally believe he is, but if you were, then I'm just looking at it now. Native German with wide knowledge of German literature, from Wagner to Boll, teaches German pronunciation, vocabulary, and culture. It is a bit bonkers. I don't know. Do we know if that's real yet?
Yeah, it's almost too on the nose. But even the way he's acting, it's almost like, you know, when Borat went to the redneck club and started singing "Throw the Jew Down the Well" to sort of, you know, lure people into, you know, singing along with them. You know, that's what it sort of felt like. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out he's actually, you know, a comedian. But then we'd know who he was. There's no sort of comedians we don't know.
Problem is, that's quite a good song, wasn't it? So it got everyone singing. That's unfair to manipulate people with that. It was a catchy song. And
that's
everyone started getting involved. And they were also trying to like help him because he was looked at, you know, a bit of a weirdo on stage. They don't know he's an act. Well, they know it's an act to some degree because he's on stage singing, but they probably didn't know the level. They're trying to help him out, singing about throwing Jews down. Well, I think they were just nice people in the crowd trying to be nice.
Absolutely, it's like our friend Darius, who's a comedian. He's got a bit about how he's lured into, like, somebody's been, you know, racially abusing him on Xbox Live over the headset, singing this you know, N-word song, and then like he goes into work on Monday and he's like, he gets in trouble because he's singing it in the kitchen because he's like, it's catchy. Yeah, it's like you can't have catchy racism.
Yes, I mean that's almost all rap is, isn't it? Just catchy use of the N-word. Then if you say it, your career's over.
Yeah, well, like John Turode, you know, the MasterChef guy. So they got rid of Greg Wallace because, you know, he was you know, getting his, I don't know whatever he was doing. But then John Turode, who didn't really sound like he did anything wrong whatsoever, they got him. They managed to fire him. I swear to God, they're looking for an excuse to get rid of somebody without paying any severance. They got John Turode because they said he said a racist word. He said the racist word when he was singing along to karaoke at a night out. And it's like, well, if it's in the song and it's karaoke, what, are you supposed to not sing it? That's ridiculous. It was a JZ. And man, that caught me out. I was out at a karaoke night, and I sang that Starboy song, and it's got the N-word in it. So I sang it because it's in the song, you know what I mean? And nobody minded. I was in a, you know, mixed crowd of people. It was Moni Yousefi's birthday. Funnily enough, used to go out with Darius, and none of the people in the birthday crowd minded, but the DJ guy who who's put on the karaoke, he came over and he was angry. Like, this white guy was angry at me for saying the N-word, and like, and
always a white guy.
It's like you put that song in the karaoke machine, so this feels like entrapment. You know what I mean?
That's exactly it. I mean, Chris Rock used to have that bit, didn't he? It's got to be in the song, guys. Got to be in the song, and that was the whole bit. It was like, if it's in the song, that's okay, and that was his rule. And that was in the 90s or early 2000s. That was a simpler time.
Yeah.
Now, cut to now, and you got Kendrick Lamar brings a woman on stage. She sings the song. He then stops to chastise her in front of everyone. He's brought on stage and she's singing the song. Yeah. It's like she's singing your song on stage. Like, no, you can't sing that word. Why have you put her on the fucking stage then? Like, it was, bullshit.
That's like a next level Chinese cultural revolution struggle session. It's like you bring the person on stage, make them commit the crime, and then have the struggle session.
Yeah. Which don't put it in your song constantly and then get people to come on stage and say it.
Yeah.
Why are they the bad person?
Yeah.
Madness. Yeah, we need to be free to. This bit's going to be like, we need to be free to say the N-word. That's going to be the one takeaway from this.
None of us shall be free till the N-word is free. We should probably move on from that line of thought. I mean, there's also the Tommy Robinson. There's a Tommy Robinson trial. I think it's going on right now. So he was stopped at the border under counter-terror legislation, under the Terror Act. And it's interesting that they didn't stop the Manchester synagogue jihadi under this counter-terror legislation, even though he was a jihadi with knives, drove into a synagogue, had a fake bomb vest, shouted Allah Akbar, phoned the police to say he was in ISIS. So he seems like more of a terrorist. What with the killing, the slaughter of Jews and things like that. Whereas Tommy Robinson doesn't seem to be a terrorist at all. Was just driving. He was driving a Bentley, had some cash on him, and they stopped him. They used this counter-terror legislation, which to me just looks like an abuse of a law to harass a political dissident.
Yeah, and that counter-terror stuff seems to get used very broadly, doesn't it? I don't know about Tommy's exact case, and it's an ongoing thing, or there isn't a jury, but I still don't really want to comment necessarily on that. But in general, it is used. I mean, I know at least two people who are friends of mine who have been stopped at the airport on that terrorism charge, and they just say, give us your devices. And of course, George Galloway was stopped on something similar as well, I believe, at the airport. So they can use it. And the whole thing about it is they get to just say, give us your devices. You don't have the right to remain silent, because then you're just immediately done under the terrorists, as I understand it. But then this one was a bit different because he wasn't at an airport. He was driving, what I've heard, to Spain, because he lives there, and he had cash in his car. It's like, because we just got this cash from the march because I can't use a bank account. And so he had this cash, and like, why are you driving to Spain with cash? And he's like, I live there. We just earned this money. And that was, but those were used against him. But he says the case is very weak. I guess he would. He spoke quite well outside the court. I was thinking Tommy's had like training on this. And then suddenly he dropped an F-bomb. I was like, what I just did on this podcast.
Turns around and calls a BBC journalist a slag. And
oh, yeah, that was so funny. Yeah, they were sort of annoyed with Ezra Levant reporting, weren't they?
Yeah.
He sort of been live tweeting it. And I saw a friend of mine, Callum, formerly of Lotus, is saying, if we just put up the footage, this would shame the corruption in these cases, was his argument, because we're not allowed into the court to see what kind of flimsy cases they're building against people.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious they go after Tommy for anything at this point. Whatever you think of Tommy, almost anyone would have to admit that if you were even slightly objective.
Oh man, yeah, I used to be so skeptical, and I just sort of grew up in the era where Tommy Robinson was just a byword for racism and stuff like that. But now, having learnt more about the situation and having seen Tommy be sort of, as Dominic Cummings says, he was more right than the establishment was on the issue of grooming gangs. I've sort of reappraised the situation quite a lot.
The difficult thing is, he said he'd do my podcast, but the problem is he's always in and out of prison, so I never know when to text him. He's always getting in these cases. And I'm saying it as a kind of a joke, but also I do feel bad for him, because he said outside the court, it's been 15 years of my life with some case hanging over me all the time.
Yeah,
and that's how they get you. It's constant petty cases. And you can see a whole list of people way worse who, don't have any charges and so on. I've seen these tweet threads before, all these people preaching Islamic extremism, and they're like allowed to do lecture tours and things. So we know they've just decided this guy. What's quite funny though, they decided this guy's the enemy number one, enemy of the state. But then he's become quite moderate, and in a sense, he's not moderate because he's a Zionist and too hardcore Zionist for some people. But he's certainly politically, aside from that, pretty moderate, I would say, except of course for his particular focus on Islam and his robust critique of that, let's say. But on other things, he's like, hey, he's like against the kind of people he sees as too right wing, the kind of Steve Laws people. He's like very much always arguing with them. But they've chosen this guy to persecute. But now he just looks, with the grooming gangs and so on, as you say, he looks increasingly moderate. And you go like, why did you go against this guy so much?
Yeah, it sort of feels like the Charlie Kirk thing. I mean, the left. Well, I'm not. It's not obviously not the whole left, but if they invented the phrase stochastic terrorism, and this is kind of what happened. They hated Charlie Kirk so much that one of them got up and killed Charlie Kirk, and they thought, oh great, we've taken out the nastiest guy, and it's like, no, Charlie Kirk was a really sort of moderate, nice guy. The people who will now step into that void are much more right wing than he was. And this idea that Tommy Robinson is some kind of far right racist demagogue is pretty nonsensical. Tommy Robinson is probably the safest off ramp for the current nativist uprising. He's a pretty sensible, moderate, very, very British guy. He's not racist. He's much more of a sort of civic nationalist. He's got, look at the people around him. He's got a lot of, black Brits, Sikh Brits, very close to him as his friends and also as people he works with. He's very genuine about the grooming gangs. He's got, Sammy. What's her name? I can't remember.
Woodhouse.
Sammy Woodhouse, yeah, working for him, and he's he's somebody who's employing somebody and giving them an opportunity to have a voice, a grooming gang victim to have a voice and push these issues forward and doing a better job of investigating it than the inquiry that we're waiting for from the state. So yeah, this idea that he's an evil far right bigot. No, there are evil far right bigots. And there are people, further to the right, and they hate Tommy Robinson.
Yeah, that's what people don't realize. It's a bit like Charlie Kirk, in that they all sort of said, "Oh, he's terrible." It's like he's far right, BBC and all these people, and you go, "No, he was in the Groyper War against Nick Dixon's people, who are much further right than Charlie Kirk." Yeah. The whole thing was he was not far right, but they're so ill-equipped to understand all this stuff, or they're disingenuous and don't want to, or both. But Tommy, yeah, that's very clear, but a lot of it is class. I mean, I've said before, one thing is he doesn't have this bogeyman reputation in America and Canada and so on. People like Gad Saad can speak to him, and Jordan Peterson and people. It's just they don't see it in the same way. So it's partly a uniquely British thing. They see him as like this football thug. He's never got out of that reputation in their minds, EDL and so on. And the other thing is, which is partly a class thing. So when I met Tommy at Lotus Eaters, and Carl's like, yeah, he's going to be on the show. I was like, all right, seemed like a nice guy to me, but I mean, I don't know much about his background and all this, and people say, oh, he's done this and that. But just on an ordinary level, he must be, if you're sort of like a lower middle class person who went to state school, you have like working class mates, and maybe I'm like a touch more lower middle, but like, well, my mates would have been on council estates and things at school. Whereas if you're these sort of media types who are properly posh, they just don't know anyone like this. And it's just, yeah. Do you ever think that? Whereas to me and you, we could just meet Tommy and we're on basically the same level. Lower middle class people, working class, can always get on. It doesn't seem to be any friction, unless there is secret friction I don't know about. But the gap between your sort of public school, actual posh people, or your boarding school people, is a much bigger gap there, and we'll never quite be. Maybe this is my class warrior stuff. But there'll always be a gap there, and they see you slightly different. So I just think I just go, yeah, it's like loads of people I went to school with, but they just think, oh, he's so vulgar. What do you think to that?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that, absolutely. And I think, because Tommy, well, and this has been said before, he says a lot of the same sort of things as Douglas Murray. But yeah, because he's saying it in a working class way, it's not as palatable. He's very direct. He's very abrupt, and I think he scares the sort of media class because he reminds them that actually the majority of Britain, or the majority of native Brits aren't this subservient blob. Britain's never been, they try and push this idea onto Britain. Oh, Britain's always been a kind and tolerant place. It's like, no, we haven't. We dominated the world. We're absolutely, we invented punk rock. We're totally the opposite of this, stand in line, do what the establishment says idea. I mean, this is what made Britain great. This whole, pushing back against anything that we see is bad. A lot of people, a lot of cultures go along with terrible ideas because each individual person doesn't want to get into trouble. But in Britain we've got people like Tommy who throw that to the wind and put themselves in danger to shake things up.
Yeah, and we got an incredible military record as well for similar reasons. Yeah, we do have this aggression in us, and to you and me it's kind of normal. But yeah, to that class, they are terrified of it, as you say. There's some deep fear about it, and maybe they even fear it within themselves. But they certainly hate this working class hatred of the working class has become so normal now. You see constant snobby tweets all the time.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, like 90s, early 2000s, it was like you weren't supposed to be openly a snob. And it was like noted. Whereas once the left abandoned class as a category, it just became open season on the working class.
Yeah, and the left have become obsessed with language, and they think that language is everything. The words around something are what matters. So and then they think they can change reality with their words. So they can just say diversity is a strength, and it magically becomes a strength. Or Eddie Izzard is a woman, and he magically becomes a woman. Whereas Tommy is very grounded in reality, and he can see, growing up in Luton, he could see the impact of mass immigration, in particular one type of mass immigration, and he's sort of raised the warning for the rest of the country. And I think now, as more people experience that mass immigration and and that clash of cultures, more people are like, oh, wait a minute, this guy's not some foaming mouthed racist. This guy's right.
Yeah, and as Carl Benjamin said to me in my podcast that I've just released, which is doing very well, Tommy's the one guy that can get 1 million people out on the street, and that is pretty impressive. 1 million people, or whatever it was, a very high number.
Man, it's hard enough just getting 70 people to go to a comedy club. That's what I've discovered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough to do anything. It's tough to organize like 3 people to go somewhere, isn't it? It's to agree on anything. I know organization is the whole thing. If you can organize, that's why they were terrified of that Tommy march.
It's like when you're trying to have sex with a woman, like logistics is like the most important thing. Everybody thinks, oh, you got to have some smooth chat up line, you got to be wearing the right aftershave or whatever. It's mostly logistics.
Yeah, that's why I gave up. It's so much it's the hassle. But yeah, I remember thinking in those sort of pickup artists, you say, remember the game and all that. Remember that book, The Game? The idea was you had to take a woman to 3 different locations to create the illusion that like she knew you better than she did. Yeah,
and she spent more time with you. She's like, oh yeah, I remember that time we were at the great
other bar,
Tower of London and like this pub. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's what you mean about logistics. Yeah. And people are there. That kind of community is really big on this game. They're like, you've got to make sure you meet near your house and blah, blah. There's like whole strategies. Women are blissfully aware of most of this stuff. They're a bit more aware now with the internet, but like men are like plotting whole strategies around this stuff.
Yeah, well, I swear to God, that pickup artist movement was mostly just sort of men teaching each other the things that women already teach each other. How to sort of be social and how to get a partner. And most of the guys weren't in there like trying to be Casanova, trying to bed like 1,000 women. They were just nerdy guys who wanted a girlfriend or wanted to be able to talk to girls. And
they just broke it down with massive autism and turned it into a science.
Yeah, they turned it into this thing, step-by-step thing. But hey, painting by numbers, still the picture still looks good. And then all this sort of longhouse women came along with, this is disgusting. Oh, this is horrible. What you're trying to convince women to sleep with you. That's terrible. How is that terrible? Obviously all men are trying to do that. You know what I mean? And women do the same thing with relationships. But when women do it, it's not seen as a bad thing. And like, I swear to God, this was the whole pickup artist movement thing. It should have been funded by the government. It was taking these autistic, nerdy, asocial guys and turning them into, socializing them and getting them girlfriends, so we could have, children to form the next generation. And instead it all got shut down. So all the nerdy autistic guys went on the internet instead, and now we've got groypers.
True, yeah. You got the Me Too movement, women going like they've got the ick. It's so harsh, isn't it? You got these incels and women are like, oh, we hate them. It's like they're just saying they can't get a date and they're sad about it. Like, why do you hate them?
Yeah.
So weird. We just hate them.
That's disgusting. Yeah. And,
like, okay, well now they're all far right. They've moved on, like you say, to politics. They're going to take over America.
Yeah, you'll never. I think the hardest thing in the world is to make a woman happy. I mean, thank God Hamas and Israel are both run by men. Because we'd never get any peace. But
we need Trump to get onto that as his 9th one. He's like, I ended 8 wars and I made women happy. I made them happy. They've never been so happy before. If he can solve that one, I made a woman happy for an entire day. He didn't complain once. Yeah, that would be incredible.
Even when you're in a relationship, all women are like, they want you to be rich. But they also don't want you to spend any time making any money, because that's time you're not like paying attention to them or whatever. So, no wonder all these like books where it's
You'd
like
give up your job or something, and suddenly with that, they'd hate that as well. You'd have fallen for the trick then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like you can never sort of listen to what women are actually saying, because.
But if you do work too much, you will still also get divorced.
yeah.
Got there somewhere.
Yeah, but this is like one of my mates was talking. He was going out with this lassie, and she was saying all this stuff. So he was like trying to acquiesce to her, and I'm like, no, she's it's called a shit test. Like basically, women will put these sort of hoops for you to jump through, and if you jump through, then you failed the test. The way you pass the test is by just ignoring it or doing the other thing. Like she does these things to see how soft and malleable, because she doesn't want a soft, malleable guy. So she tests to see if you're soft and malleable.
Yeah, you meant to ignore it all, absolutely. But there is a level then you just end up divorced. I know a bloke going through this at the moment. He's been really hard line about, I'm not going to do that because you want to destroy our child. And he's absolutely right. Yeah. But it's like not looking great. He's like out of the house and they've got a kid and another one coming. It's like, but I totally respect his decisions. But you've got to be prepared to. It's like Heat. Remember the movie Heat? You got to be prepared to walk away in 30 seconds. That's got. Don't listen to any of this advice. This is not it.
Yeah. And talking of misogyny and stuff, I mean, there was a march organised by a Muslim charity or a mosque this week in London, and women aged over, or girls aged over 12 were banned from the march. And 12 is an interesting cutoff point, because my understanding of Muslims wanting women to cover themselves, the children don't cover themselves, but the women have to cover themselves, because if the men see their hair or whatever, it might inflame sexual desires, and then they have to do what they're doing. The men don't have self-control. But so 12, the girls have to be removed, because what are the men saying? Are the men saying that if the girls were there, they'd be inflaming their sexual desires? Like, if they'd have picked like 18 or something.
Yeah, it's a weird age. I suppose they're saying sort of puberty or something. But yeah, that is weird. Where is that march? I missed this one.
Somewhere in London.
Of course it is. Could have been London, could have been the north, but you knew it was going to be England.
Yeah, well, it's like Andrew Lawrence has got that great joke about. Oh man, I can't remember the joke, but it's something like, he was slagging off London, and his wife says to him, you're always. Oh man, you know what? I can't remember the joke. I can't remember the joke, but the punchline is, you wouldn't be saying that about an English city,
right?
But man, sorry. I apologise to Andrew Lawrence. No, I mean, I've ruined his jokes. I've given away the punchline. Tell you what, let's just
punchlines. Yeah, never the setups.
Let's just scrub that. Let's wipe that from the record. But yeah, man, like, and this is the thing: the left won't ever speak up against this kind of thing. I remember there's the Labour speech conference or whatever, where the men and the women were sitting separately. The Islamic Labour thing. And the left will never speak about it. Whereas, imagine Reform had some sort of, hardline Christian offshoot that separated men and women like that, or said, we can't have 13-year-olds running on this march because they'll inflame us, and this ball gown is already tight-fitting enough.
Well, You know who will talk about it now is the Tories. It's at that level where some of the Tories will talk about it. So Matthew Syed did a speech at the Tory conference. He's just joined the party, and he did say we've got Sharia courts, we've got cousin marriage, completely insane. And he said these Sharia courts, they're sexist, but why do the left not care about it when it's that kind of sexism and when it's that kind of bigotry, reverse discrimination, whatever he said. So it's still a left-wing frame to approach it, but that's the Tories now. They see. I would just say, well, of course, we don't want Sharia courts. It's England. That'd be my entire argument. But his argument was like, oh, they're sexist. So it's a left-wing framing. But of course, he's not wrong. I mean, that's included in. I would just say we're a Christian country, and it's kind of included within that we don't treat women like that. But he's approaching it from a purely left-wing frame of it's sexist, and because he's not wrong. But you'll get that kind of argument now finally from the Tories.
Yeah, it's interesting how they do still frame it in that left wing framing, because I mean I saw Genric, and Genric's been doing some great stuff. He went to court, stood up for Hamit Koskun, the guy who the Turkish guy who burnt a Quran and then was stabbed. I thought there must be this guy who stabbed him must have known he was going to do it and gone there with a knife. No, it's just a random passing Muslim. You know what I mean? Just any random
looking out for anyone burning anything.
And then another random passing Muslim came over and was kicking the guy in the ground. So when people say, "Oh, it's just you shouldn't let a few people change your attitudes of a whole demographic group," it's like, well, this is indicative of like how the whole group thinks. But yeah, what was that? Well, oh yeah, the framing thing. Because Genric is sort of. Fallen, is it a trap? I feel like he's sort of fallen into the trap of using that left-wing framing when he should just be like you and be like, no, this is Britain. You know what I mean? We're a Christian country. Because I know Genric he was getting sort of quizzed by a Sky interviewer who, man, was doing that thing of like, so Genric saying, well, big swathes of this country aren't native British anymore. You've got a majority, it's like 80%, 90% immigrant. And the Sky interviewer is doing that thing of like, but why is that a problem? As if it's not obviously a problem. You know what I mean? Like it's obvious. You know in your gut that that's a problem. That's like, we can't.
It's our only country. It's our only ever home. It's not
yeah.
People to be wiped out, which is what the left ostensibly believe. Yeah, there's loads of arguments you could use. But as you say, I mean, Genric was already using the super cautious argument, although he said the white faces comment. He also said he just wants a mixed culture, that's all, and these aren't mixed. So all he was actually saying was, let me have a multiracial melting pot, where it's not just purely one group that isn't English at all, with a completely separate language, or certain groups not English. He's just asking for, can we just be part of the mix in our own country? And even that is like, you're racist. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's so obvious that multiculturalism is going to lead to conflict. I think and so many people say, oh, but Dubai has got 87% non-natives. It's like, yeah, but Dubai has got very different rules. Would you like those rules here? I'd quite like those rules here. So if you move to Dubai, you don't become a Dubai citizen. You don't get lots of benefits. You don't get put up in a hotel. Well, you do if you're going there to perform comedy. But you don't get all the nice stuff. What you do get is you don't have to pay tax, or you pay very low tax, and you make money. But if you lose your job, if you can't support yourself, you've got like 3 months to get another job or get out the country. And they don't mess around. And also the natives are given precedence over migrants. I've seen it in Dubai. You get the guys with the dish dash or whatever it's called. Is it a dish dash, a door dash, something like that? And they go to the front of the queues and stuff like that. So I mean, that's a very nativist approach. And I think if you're going to have mass, insane levels of immigration, you've got to have some sort of rule like that, because at the moment we're sort of subjugating our own population, the native population, and elevating incomers, and not all the incomers are here to sort of integrate and be nice. So that's obviously creating huge amounts of friction.
I've noticed this, yeah.
yeah.
We're trying to higher political discourse now. That's why you've got the Tommy March, why you've got reform. Pretty much the whole thing. You can't. It was an experiment, really. Can you completely abuse a majority in a country? Can you have a two-tier justice system? Can you keep them out of jobs? Can you constantly say they're evil? Can you, in your schools and universities, have all kinds of curriculum saying or curriculi, what's saying that they're pure evil just by existing. And it's like, what happens when you do that? Is it a social experiment? It's like
Yeah.
resentment. Oh, I couldn't have predicted that. The majority now you've got an inflamed majority who are full of resentment and know that the government despises them. Even a mainstream figure like Danny Kruger, when he defected to Reform from the Tories, he said, and people want a government that doesn't despise them.
Yeah.
He's openly saying the government despises you, and it's like, yes, thank you, Danny, because we have noticed that.
Yeah, and it's weird that they openly do it. Like, Keir Starmer's sitting there being like, oh, what can I do to be more popular? Just do what people want. Has nobody in a democracy ever considered doing what most people want instead of treating your population like somebody to be, subjugated and indoctrinated with, this weird ideology of self-loathing. We've got to abolish whiteness. Diversity is a strength. All these sort of religious beliefs have to be, projected onto the people.
Yeah, you always have to follow the political formula of the ruling class. It's just that woke or whatever, critical race theory, etc., was one of the stupidest ones ever.
Yeah.
If they had a better one, like let's all follow Jesus, or what we pretty much had before, which was sort of follow Christianity and social conservatism. That was like quite a good formula. It was working quite well. Now it's like, let's come up with the worst possible formula. You all have to follow it. Speaking of Starmer's popularity as well, I wonder if we were going to talk about that darts thing where they were chanting Keir Starmer's a wanker.
Yeah.
So much that Sky had to take it out and put in fake crowd noise. I thought that was amazing. It was real like Soviet, like end of regime stuff. It's like this guy is just so hated that we're actually now having to, isn't that just like something you'd hear like that from Stalin or something? Like they had to like you have to clap for Stalin the longest, whatever. We have to like fake noise to just cover up the idea that everywhere Starmer goes, just the darts. He's just automatically called a wanker. And of course, there is something more to it because darts is sort of inherently working class. I remember my granddad saying to me, football's not worth watching anymore, Nicky. The only sport worth watching, darts. And he was such a proud working class person that he identified with the darts and not the football because it had become so ridiculous. So you go to the darts and as Starmer now, you can't go anywhere in the country without being called a wanker. And the media having to do propaganda on your behalf.
It's like they did with Joe Biden when they were, people were saying F Joe Biden, and they were saying no. They're saying let's go
Brandon, wasn't it?
Let's go Brandon. Yeah. It's like Mr. Smithers saying to Mr. Burns. No, they're saying Boo Earns.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing. Sky covering up like real 1984 Orwellian Big Brother stuff, like actually, changing the background noise in media to protect a political figure and, present a different appearance of a political figure. I mean, that's mad. And we're supposed to trust the media.
As you could tell, I'm incredibly popular at the darts. And, it cuts to people clapping politely blatantly from a cricket ground or something. Yeah, it's ridiculous. He's so unpopular. He's the most popular leader ever, isn't he? Including Truss. There was that poll recently. He's literally the most unpopular prime minister of all time.
Yeah, I think we'll never have popular prime ministers again because the country's too fractured. For all the people who love talk about community cohesion seem very keen on making sure that we're as disunited and fractured as possible. I think if we were the Britain of 30, 40 years ago, where we were mostly just British, then you could get somebody who represents the British people. But now, no matter who it is, you've got this sort of alarming sort of hard left offshoot allied with the Islamists, and then you've got your sort of your more hard right people over this side, and then there's people like us in the middle, and
well, we're centrist. But if you could have a bit more popularity if someone like Farage got in and he had that third or whatever that he has. They said that 33% are going to vote Reform or something. He would have a large enough chunk. I mean, he might still be quite unpopular, but Starmer, it seems to me, he's just alienated everyone. He's alienated the left of his party. Obviously, he's alienated the right. And then that little thing that he represents, that global managerial elite, globally there's a few of them, but there's really not many of them. How many people really like that in the country? There's just not that many.
And
So-
it feels like the whole sort of carapace, this like weak roof of all these global blobocracy leaders, like Macron. I mean, they're all just hanging by a tether, and it's all about to fall in. Macron is so insanely unpopular. I saw a survey that said, do you think Macron has got what it takes to do what needs to be done in France? And it was like 7% of the people said yes. And most people, 70% said no. And I think it's the same with Starmer. I mean, yeah, these leaders have got to start doing what people actually want. But this is the thing that could trip up Farage, because if he doesn't come in, he's sort of damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. If he comes in and makes the radical changes that the country needs, that's going to include, cutting a lot of welfare, raising the retirement age, stuff like that. That's going to be hugely unpopular with his voter base. Although, I think he could sell it. And also if he rolls back a lot of the multiculturalism, I think, that's what the country needs long term to stave off turning into Lebanon. But that's going to be hugely unpopular with people on the left. They're gonna be out in the streets protesting against that. So yeah, I don't think he's gonna have an easy ride either. The only thing I think that could probably save him is the fact that Britain's facing imminent financial collapse, and we're seeing millionaires leave Britain because they're touting a wealth tax and they're putting up taxes. So people are leaving Britain for better countries. So I don't think it's just for tax reasons. I think just because Britain is just not like walking around London now. Oh my God, it was in Hammersmith the other day, and it's like, man, this never used to be like this. This used to be quite a nice place to come out and go to TK Maxx and Primark and stuff. Now it's just like, man, it's like Mogadishu but with worse weather.
Well, I haven't been for a while. I used to live near there. I haven't been for a while. But yes, everywhere, Finsbury Park now, just go to Finsbury Park late at night and just like gangs of like third world stuff. It's crazy. Yeah, all of London or many areas. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, the financial challenge. Though you say it might help them to have an economic collapse. I mean, I think the economy could be a problem for reform because we're seeing these councils already that they can't necessarily make the cuts they want because the country just doesn't have any money. Now, I won't go on about it because we're running out of time, but I think they could. And I said this to Carl Benjamin in my interview. He said, yeah, but reform aren't really there to do that. It's more about they're there to represent the British and have a kind of reset of all these, of this, this blob that we've had. But still, if there's no money and they can't do any of their promises, they will still be in trouble. Yeah,
although I think if there is a financial collapse and we need an IMF bailout, it'll at least give reform the sort of carte blanche to do what's needed. And I think people will buy into what needs to be done because they can see that what we've been doing isn't working. Running a 5% deficit isn't working.
Yeah. Well, let's see. They've got a massive financial challenge. I'm just conscious that I can see the timer running out because you don't pay for the professional Zoom.
I'm not paying £11 a month. Now I'm gonna get that thing that you use, StreamYard or whatever it's called. But yeah, I guess we better wrap this up and say goodbye. But yeah, man, thanks so much for joining me. And this is I'm going to put this up on my Patreon, on my YouTube, and yeah, you're big favorite of my YouTube people. So.
Oh, that's nice to know. Yeah, please go to nickdixon.net if you really like my stuff, which is my Substack where all the paywall stuff is. Otherwise, just check out my YouTube channel. Maybe you're already there if you're watching this.
Nice one, Nick. Thanks for speaking to me. Cheerio. Bye.